Okay, Baltimore City Council Budget and Appropriations Committee. We are here for fiscal year 2020 budget for the sheriff. I'm Eric Costello, chair of the committee from the 11th District. I'm joined by Vice President of the Council, Sharon Green Middleton, 6th District member of the committee. To my immediate right is Marguerite Curran, staff to the committee. We also have Jeff Amorose representing Mayor Jack Young. Rebecca Tagg from Council President Brandon Scott's office. I apologize, I'm out of breath from running up the stairs. It's not as easy as it used to be. Sheriff Anderson, if you could come up here, introduce your compadre, and or you can sit. Actually, you can sit down and testify. That's cool. There's a mic right there, sir.
Okay, all right.
Yep. No need to get up.
Councilman here.
All good.
First, good afternoon, everyone. Again, let me say it's a pleasure being here. We're going to keep this. We're going to keep it short. Okay, that's the way I can put it. I have with me today my assistant sheriff Sam Cogan, and when it comes to budgets over at the office of the sheriff here in Baltimore City, Sam is basically our budget guy, right? He knows where the money is. He knows how the money is spent. And he does a pretty good job at it. So moving along quickly, here's Sam.
All right, and Sam, if you could run through each of the slides.
Sure, I'm going to just come to the podium then.
Yeah. Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and appreciate you letting us testify today from the Sheriff's Office. The first slide we're looking at is courthouse security. That's our general functions within the court facility and the Juvenile Justice Center. It provides the courtroom security and courthouse security. That is a law enforcement function mostly, where we have sworn officers either in our court security division or deputy sheriffs assigned to that function. That is receiving the same level of service as it did the previous year. And I'm going to go through them all unless you want to stop me for each one.
No, just zip through them.
Sure. The next one is Deputy Sheriff Enforcement. That entails the majority of our activities of the Sheriff's Office from the Deputy Sheriff Division, which have citywide law enforcement jurisdiction. That includes going out and serving court orders, evictions, foreclosures, and also has our component that does warrant apprehension, as well as our internal affairs, as well as our task forces. We have an individual assigned to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms as a task force officer, and 6 individuals, deputy sheriffs assigned to the U.S. Marshal Squad, and 1 individual assigned to DEA, and a 2nd individual who's been detailed to a DEA component known as the Strike Force, and that comes out of the Deputy Sheriff Enforcement section. And again, that's going to have the same level of funding as it had in the previous year. The next is the Service of Protective and Peace Orders. These are deputy sheriffs and support staff that go out and serve in the city, the circuit court and district court protective orders and peace orders for domestic violence and for what we would consider a restraining order. It's a highly effective unit. We took this over from the police department several years ago. We maintain a high level of service, and we work cooperatively with the district court and the circuit court in Maryland in order to give people relief from domestic violence and from people who are harassing and stalking them. And again, that has the same level of service as it has had in previous years. The next one is the District Court Sheriff Services. This is a function that works with the District Court of Maryland, and we serve orders that originate out of the District Court of Maryland, including evictions and enforcement of civil judgments. That's a Deputy Sheriff Division, and they have a full citywide jurisdiction as well. So while they're out, they also are in uniform and mark cars, and they frequently get involved in traffic stops and also in criminal enforcement just from being out in the street. And that is, again, the same level of services as we had in previous years. And those are our funded services.
Thank you. Sam, were you guys impacted by the recent cybersecurity incident?
Yes, we were.
When was the first time that you had communication from the CIO or anyone from BSIT? The incident happened on Monday, May 6th.
Sure. I believe within 24 hours we received communication from David McMillan, who was running the Office of Emergency Management, and he was our spearhead. He reached out to me fairly quickly and asked me what my needs are and how we were impacted. We were able to advise him that I would say we were severely impacted. Our computer email service was down, and we were having difficulty using our computers in general, and some of our crucial services were on those computers as well, as like our warrant ability to confirm warrants and our ability to do criminal investigative work. But we were able, with the Office of Emergency Management, to move rather quickly into a mode where we just developed workarounds. Like, for example, we moved our dispatchers to work with the Maryland Transportation Authority Police. We actually physically moved them there, and they were able to assist us. BSID reached out to us, I think, through Cheryl Goldstein's office. And when she began to coordinate everything, we received a call from one of our staff members, and they've been in and out of the office replacing computers and trying to bring things up and restore passwords over the past week.
Okay. Are you guys back up with email service now?
Some people are and some people aren't. Like, my email is down, but some other people's are up.
Did BSID advise you to create Gmail addresses?
They did.
Okay. Okay. Sheriff Anderson, I want to thank you. Sam is a neighbor and friend of mine, so I'm biased toward him. But your folks do an absolutely outstanding job every single time that I've asked for something. Your folks have come through and done it the right way. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. They've gotten me out of a couple of jams for constituent-related issues where BPD simply wasn't able to provide the support, which Daniel leads me to what I'd like to request of BBMR this year. I know that there were discussions about potentially adding more resources to the Sheriff's Department. This is an agency that not only has a return on investment and is actually bringing in revenue to the city. They do a very good job, and they seem to find a way to oftentimes come in under budget and return money to the city. And any agency that's performing in that manner, I believe, deserves or warrants serious consideration of a budgetary increase. So what I'd like to do is, Jeff, as a follow-up, Daniel, if you and or Bob could meet with Sam in the coming month or two to start to talk through that, what that might look like for next fiscal year, and then follow up to Jeff with something in writing.
We can commit to that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We've been joined by Councilman Chris Burnett, 8th District, and Councilman John Bullock, 9th District. Colleagues, any questions for Sheriff Burnett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to your agency for the work you do for Baltimore, and been a good partner with me in a few efforts in my district and legislatively, so I'm thankful for that partnership. Can you speak a little bit about I know any communications or strategy between the Sheriff's Department and BPD as a part of sort of a larger policing strategy? You mentioned doing traffic stops and other enforcement. What does that look like? Are there formal arrangements? Just sort of speak to the relationship between, I know the limited capacity you have to work outside of the courthouses, but what that looks like.
Sure, absolutely. So since I'm here, I'll I'll continue on this one. I know the police commissioner and sheriff met last week to discuss just what you're asking. He's new, and one of the things he wanted to do is reach out to us and see how we can assist, and that's in the formulation right now. But we are doing things on a daily basis to work with the Baltimore Police Department and in the public safety arena. For example, I mean, we have communications are connected, so when they have a problem, we can reach out to them when we need them. So every deputy in the street is in communication with the police department. We have interoperability in that manner. We have a memorandum of understanding which allows us to utilize their paperwork and evidence control. So it goes back and forth with that. So if we have what we would consider an arrest that we want to pass on or is of interest in them, or we need to utilize their resources like their crime labs or their evidence control, or to write a report that's going to be vetted out and put in so everyone can see it, we do that as well. And the memorandum of understanding allows us also to work with them in, for example, they investigate our traffic accidents that we have. So we have a very good street working relationship with them and are integrated so we can communicate. Our paperwork is identical and we can work with them. As our deputies are out, they're in uniform and they're in marked vehicles, and so and they also have these police radios. So they'll come across crimes and they'll summons and work collaboratively with the police department. A couple of things that we do that's definitive, like directly that we work with them, is when we talked about our protective order service, those are orders that would have gone to the police department, but now we handle. And so we're serving all the protective orders from the district court, and that was a police service that the sheriff's office has directly taken over. We work on task forces with them. So I mentioned the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the United States Marshals Task Force, and the DA Task Force. So deputy sheriffs are federalized, and they work on state, local, and federal task forces with BPD officers, state police, transportation authority officers, and work conjointly to look at some of what we consider the bad actors in the city, whether they have federal felony warrants, whether they have violation of probation warrants that the sheriff is responsible for serving, or whether we have like a drug, like our DA guy does felony drug investigations in the city on a task force that's set up with Baltimore Police Department members, and it works and is integrated with that. And what we get out of that is we can bring the resources of the sheriff's office to the DEA and to the Baltimore Police Department, and we get all the resources together. And so if we have an interest, we have a drug case, one of our deputies walks in on an eviction and finds evidence of drug distribution, which happens quite frequently, then they know who to contact through the DEA and through the Baltimore Police Department to bring those detectives or what, and those resources together to try to conduct a criminal investigation. So we're integrated in that way as well. We also have done some foot patrol and overtime details. Most specifically, the festivals that we work, which were at one time handled exclusively by the police department. So, for example, the Latino Festival in Patterson Park, the Fells Point Festival in Fells Point, and some various other like significant citywide events, the Barkstober event in Patterson Park again, St. Patrick's Day in Canton Square. Those were handled exclusively by sheriff's deputies, where that would have probably been the special events unit of the police department did those things. And then we integrate with the district commander and give them our operational plan, so they're aware of what we're doing in that area, and we work conjointly with them as well. So those are just some examples of how we work with the Baltimore Police. There are many more that I can go into offline with you.
Okay, thank you. The second question I had was around training. When your deputies are you're doing a lot of home visits, you know, whether those are for evictions, looks like child support, and other roles and responsibilities. Are your deputies trained to identify signs of domestic violence, human trafficking, any child welfare issues, potential for homelessness, or individuals dealing with mental health crisis?
Yes. So we have an annual in-service that we do every year. So our deputies, some of them have participated in, and I'll start with some of the things, in what we call the BEST program, which is the Behavioral Emergency Services Team. And so they've received training on how to deal with people with mental health crisis. Through our domestic violence program that we have with the protective orders, that's always something that we have in our in-service training, where we talk about recognizing signs of domestic violence. When those individuals, we took over that unit, we had the House of Ruth come in and do a week-long specific training on recognizing trauma and how to deal with people who were engaged in domestic violence and the cycle of violence, and how to recognize that sometimes people present themselves in ways that you think they're being difficult, but they're really just traumatized, and that you should look at it in a clinical way. Homeless services, we're frequently reaching out to adult protective services and some various other people during our evictions to make sure that, because unfortunately when we evict people, they often become homeless. We try to, we have very strong connections with individuals in reference to try to assist them in that as well. Did I hit all your points, Council?
Yeah. So you mentioned you make referrals to, where are the homeless referrals going?
So we were attending the previous mayor's VPI service, so the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. We have a connection with them. We also have an issue with the homeless around the court facility in the mornings, and so we work with the Downtown Partnership, the people who have that area of responsibility down there, and so they come to us and we will work with them. And so I believe that's, like off the top of my head, that's where we're doing.
Okay. And human trafficking?
So I know we had human trafficking as part of our in-service training. So we've worked there. We also The U.S. Marshals has a human trafficking initiative that we're integrated with since we have deputy sheriffs assigned to the United States Marshals as task force officers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you, and mine is just more of a comment. Councilman Burnett did cover some of my questioning, but I want to really thank you for, especially during the spring and summer months when it starts to get warm, you are definitely seen in communities at block parties, summer events, particularly back-to-school events, and you help support school supplies and so on. So communities take notice with all of those things as well. And more particularly, want to thank you for your efforts when I call you for needing help with the prostitution on Garrison Boulevard. I've periodically set up meetings when it really starts to get areas start to really get bad, and you are the first group of people that really step up and try to help in many ways. So I appreciate that, and we have to continue those efforts. And then lastly, do you do anything with 83, Route 83? Do you guys travel on that periodically with any help with the police department when they have issues?
So all the deputy sheriffs who have traffic authority throughout the city. So if they see a violation, they will act on that violation. But one of the things that we don't currently do because we want to keep it, we have a memorandum of understanding with the police department and they handle this function. We don't want to do accident investigation because that's not something that we currently have training to do an ongoing accident investigation, especially when there are injuries. We have people who are capable of doing that. We just don't have the resources currently within the sheriff's office to carry that all the way through. But if a deputy, and I've seen this before, deputies will make traffic stops and they'll also assist motorists. Driving down, they'll pull over and help someone change their tire or take them off 83 off the side if it's dangerous. So yes, we have the authority to do that. Limited in somewhat capacity to do accident investigation, and that needs to be done very specifically because of the limitations of 83 and safety issues as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman, if you, okay. Sheriff, Sam, thank you very much. Please keep me updated on your conversations with Daniel and Bob, and we're going to get that done before, let's say, end of, what's a reasonable time frame?
We'll have the meeting in July. Can we report back sometime mid-August so it gives us time to do some analysis?
Okay. And when do we start the process for the budget for fiscal 21 in September?
Around September.
Okay. Can we just try to have this wrapped up by then, just so we can get a better idea of what we can do in next year's budget?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And Jeff, the request will be something in writing from BBMR. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, have a good day. Thank you for everything you do. We are in recess for 4.5 minutes.